Well, Jim, next time we get together, you'll be sporting one of these missile badges yourself. Your countdown started ready, boy.
Sure looks that way. But I've been a bomber man so long that it's just not going to be easy.
Changes never are easy. We've broken through enough of them over the years to know that.
Yeah, and it's taken me more years than I like to recall just to keep up with aircraft. Now they're throwing a missile squad into my lap. What do I know about missiles?
You learned, Jim. It wasn't too many months back that I was standing in your shoes. I learned. I had to.
Now it's my turn, huh?
Yours and a lot others. One thing's certain. The ballistic missile is here to stay. Accept that fact. Well, maybe things will fit into place a little easier. Anyhow, good luck, Jim.
So long, Ed.
This is it, Colonel. The day you've been expecting for a long time. You've taken your first step to becoming a full-fledged missile commander. No, the men and the missiles won't be here for a while yet. But that'll give you time. Time to think. Time to plan. Time to find the answers to those questions that are racing through your mind at this moment. There she goes. Just another jet taking off from a base that's become as familiar to you as your own backyard. But you can expect to see some mighty unfamiliar things around this backyard in the next year. Yes, you'll see more changes than you ever dreamed possible. And problems? You can bet you'll stay awake nights thinking about them. But you've managed to lick problems before, and whether you realize it now or not, you'll find yourself relying on this past experience to lick the so-called bugaboos associated with the ballistic missile. Let's look at a ballistic missile. Let's find out what makes it tick. Not just any missile, but the Atlas Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, the particular one you'll soon be concerned with. This is Atlas, no longer yesterday's test rocket, but a part of SAC's deterrent force today. A 1.5-stage, 132-ton ballistic device, now fully operational after an evolutionary background of more than 50 years of powered flight. Its lightweight stainless steel airframe houses a baffling network of wires, ducting, and delicate instruments. Its sensitive guidance and control system is capable of directing Atlas with uncanny accuracy to a pinpoint target over 5,500 nautical miles away. And these sophisticated high-performance rocket engines combine to produce an entirely new breed of vehicle. But like the bomber without its thermonuclear payload, it's this re-entry vehicle that gives real meaning to Atlas. This warhead is designed to safely send its bomb package through the violent shock of re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere to a selected enemy target. Now let's take a closer look at the other three basic parts that make up this missile. This is the Atlas airframe under assembly at the factory. A thin, unsupported stainless steel shell, yet strong enough to keep the missile and its components intact and functional under extreme, rapidly changing stresses and strains. Here are the powerful Atlas rocket engines in action. These two main thrust chambers with the sustainer engine between them are capable of providing far more thrust than is necessary to lift Atlas from its launcher. The two small vernier engines furnish missile roll control during powered flight and final velocity and position adjustments after the sustainer engine has been stopped. All Atlas engines are in operation during the boost phase, lasting approximately 130 seconds. When the booster thrust section is jettisoned, the sustainer and verniers continue to perform. At a program point, the sustainer shuts off, and only the vernier engines continue to operate, allowing ground guidance to make any final adjustments in the missile's course and velocity. At vernier cutoff, the warhead is separated from the missile by means of retro rockets and continues its ballistic trajectory to the target. Most of the Atlas guidance components do not fly with the bird. They remain here on the ground within the Radio Inertial Guidance Systems building. Only these canisters and actuators are built into the missile. Locked in flight to ground radar, they are provided with radio guidance signals during the first 400 to 500 miles of flight and guide Atlas with sufficient accuracy to result in an acceptable CEP. Unlike the All-Bomber Command, your missile squadron will require no need for target studies. Every Atlas target has been pre-selected, often while the missile itself is still undergoing assembly at the factory. Here at the SAC Trajectory Computation Center at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, the IBM 704 produces all target trajectory pre-computations. This information is then fed to every operational unit where proper target settings are made in the missile guidance computers. Aside from its primary target, each Atlas is provided with alternate target settings. Should intelligence report the destruction of the prime target before missile launch, SAC control will authorize the use of one of these alternates. Now let's take a cook's tour of an Atlas missile base. For many months, the once quiet prairie has echoed to the rumble of giant steam shovels and earth movers. Dirt roads and cattle trails have been replaced with modern highways, wide ribbons of concrete linking the support base to remote missile sites. Here, construction crews work round the clock, giving real shape to technical facilities, which 10 years ago existed only in science fiction. And working right along with the contractors are men like Major Ted Dixon, an Air Force Ballistic Missile Division field representative. He and his staff of competent troubleshooters set up shop long before the first bulldozer arrived. Their job? To coordinate the activities of all contractors during construction, installation, and checkout, and to accept the completed facilities for turnover to SAC. From this eagle's eye view, we see a 1x3 Atlas complex, a soft site configuration, just one of 3 identical complexes at this base, each maintaining 3 missiles, and each separated by a distance of about 18 miles. Your base will contain buried or hardened missile sites with far greater dispersal than this complex. Dispersal, forcing the enemy to extend his target system to the point where it far exceeds his capacity to destroy SAC's entire retaliatory strike force in a surprise missile attack. This launch and service building, nearly identical to the hardened structure, is to the missile what the protective maintenance hangar is to the bomber. Within this service structure, an Atlas missile waits, combat ready, horizontally mated and locked to its launcher at the T-15 condition. A safe distance from the launch and service structure is the Launch Operations Building. Inside its main operations room, the launch control officer and his crew, working in shifts, maintain continuous 24-hour duty at their panels, ready to instantly begin an active countdown. From his raised platform, the launch control officer can observe all activities within the control room. The status panel in front of him tells at a glance the condition of the missile and its associated support equipment. With the command to launch, an active countdown begins. The roof of the launch and service building rolls back automatically. The missile raises slowly, deliberately, to its firing position. Not far away in the missile guidance building, the guidance control officer and his technicians monitor the radio inertial guidance system. The brains of the guidance system is this electronic computer. Stored within its metallic shell is a mass of previously calculated trajectory information for both the prime and alternate missile targets. when the missile is launched, surface radar equipment tied to the computer measures speed, rate of change, and position of the missile. After evaluating this information, the computer sends corrective commands to Atlas. At the instant when missile speed, heading, and angle of elevation are correct, the computer issues the final engine cutoff signal. Atlas is now free from all guidance controls, and the computer is free to send another Atlas to its destination. Although most of your missile facilities will be found many miles from the support base, there will still be some new buildings you can see right from your office window. The squadron maintenance area, for example, an immense structure of steel and concrete, and first stop for each Atlas arriving at your base. Inside this vast building, every system and subsystem of each missile must be periodically checked out, tested with routine regularity to maintain operational readiness. Comprising the major portion of this weapon checkout apparatus is APSHI, Automatic Programmed Checkout Equipment, an electromechanical brain designed to initiate test sequences and to evaluate all test results. With each measured rhythmic tick and each flash of a panel light, a specific test is being performed. But electronics plays other roles in maintaining efficient missile support. Even the ancient art of logistics is now performed by remote control. The Weapons Systems Manager at Norton Air Force Base, California, has absorbed all supply responsibility, making this new and improved logistic capability a dream come true for the missile commander. Located here is the nerve center of missile logistics, the electronic data processing equipment, commonly known as EDP. Linked by a nationwide high-speed transceiver network to the contractor's weapons system storage site for peculiar items, to the depots for general supplies, and to the actual operational sites, this equipment fulfills the missile logistic requirement of immediate and direct movement of supplies. At the squadron, punched order cards are inserted in a transceiver, and their information is transmitted by impulse over telephone or telegraph lines directly to the EDP center, where each card is reproduced. In order to further speed up the operation, the coded card information is transferred to tape. The tape data then enters the processing computer, which immediately draws on previously stored information to locate the required item. Along with hundreds of other items, the tape passing through the electronic computer at this moment contains an order for one Atlas sustainer engine, a replacement for the squadron's 10th missile, irreparably damaged due to a pressurization malfunction. Within minutes, EDP has alerted the contractor. One Atlas engine coming up. Complete missiles, however, are programmed into the supply system long before the site has reached final construction. Beneath a silver cloak of security, the missile leaves the factory aboard its handling trailer. It's a space-age paradox that Atlas, designed to soar through the heavens at ultrasonic speeds, must begin its first journey by land, slowly moving along the highways to the Air Transportation Center. At the airfield, the missile is cautiously maneuvered through the clamshell doors of a C-133 and airlifted to the missile support base. Within hours, Atlas is again traveling the highways, this time to the squadron maintenance area. Delivery is complete. Not far from the squadron maintenance area is the S&I building, storage and inspection. Here, nuclear warheads, also arriving by air, are brought for their initial inspection and mated to their re-entry vehicles. Here, too, checkout tests are performed under the ever-watchful eyes of radiation safety devices. Once all tests are complete, the warhead is road transported to the launch area and gently mated to its missile, where it will normally remain as long as the missile itself is in a combat-ready condition. Still another unique facility at the support base is this liquid oxygen plant, where the oxidizer, so precious to each Atlas missile is manufactured and trucked to the storage areas at the launch sites. Now, let's look at the missile men who will operate, maintain, and support your Atlas squadron. How are they different from other airmen? The answer is, they aren't. They're the same alert, trainable young men who can make this B-52 capable of delivering its payload to an enemy target. Today they're learning what they must know: to send a ballistic missile off its launcher and into its planned trajectory. This is Major David Gardner, 34 years old, a launch control officer. His training began nearly 2 years ago in this classroom at Convair Astronautics, San Diego. Staff Sergeant James Graham, a former bomb nav systems technician at March Air Force Base, also received his missile systems analyst training at Convair. Airman First Class Ted Baker, radio tracking system specialist. His classroom, a laboratory somewhere in the east. And Airman First Class Paul Kincaid, electronic data maintenance technician. He studied in the factory alongside engineers who themselves were still learning. As fast as training equipment and instructors become available, individual specialist courses are transferred to Air Force schools, where the student learns the skills necessary to perform his role as a member of a missile team. Operational readiness training is conducted at Vandenberg Air Force Base, hub of the Pacific Missile Range. Here, these specialists meet for the first time to combine their skills and perform as a missile team. Here, the individual training of the operational, maintenance, and support personnel is put to the test. Here, they are required to perform in precise sequence all operations from the birth of the missile to its death somewhere high above the Pacific Test Range. T-minus 15. The operations crew takes over at this moment inside the Launch Operations Building. The launch control officer is now commander of the missile. His cockpit, this underground room. His controls, this electronic console through which he governs the countdown sequence. Another training launch has begun. As the operation progresses, the men within the Launch Control Center know they are being observed, that every move they make is being carefully noted by skilled SAC instructors. These same standardization teams from SAC will later inspect the crews of the operational squadrons, simulating alert conditions and monitoring personnel performance. For there may be little opportunity to check individual responsibilities once this serious game is being played in earnest. It's a matter of seconds now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. A flawless countdown, a perfect firing. To every man who participated, today's successful launch means one thing: graduation. But training for the missile man never really ends. Twice each year, crews return to their alma mater, to Vandenberg, for combat training launches. Under the unit proficiency training system, a part of the missile inventory is annually launched in order to keep these crews combat ready. Missile men are also kept up to date in the field of safety. They are given startling visual proof of the countless dangers inherent with the ballistic missile. For with missiles, these men deal constantly with tremendous pressures, with sub-zero cold, with a variety of deadly hazards common only to this type of weapon system. For this reason, safety cannot be overemphasized at the test site or at the operational squadron, where every commander must continue the training with active safety campaigns. Identified separately from other squadron personnel are the indirect missile support groups. Like the bomber squadron, we still find the essential supply people, communications personnel, the air policemen, cooks, and the administrative personnel.
These also are missile men, working behind the scenes, you might say, to back up SAC's operational personnel.
Now let's suppose, Colonel, that 14 months have passed since that day you first entered this missile business. As we promised, you now have the missiles, the men, and the ground support equipment, a fully operational squadron. And let's suppose that this is not just like any ordinary day, but a day the free world prayed would never come. The first day of a nuclear war. You know where it begins, that initial warning, that terrible moment of realization that an enemy attack is imminent. For a crew of radar specialists, it begins in this isolated tracking station somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. For Airman Second Class Jerry Williams, it begins behind this transparent intelligence map at the North American Air Defense Command Center at Colorado Springs. For SAC's Commander-in-Chief and his staff, it begins in the heart of Nebraska's farm country, in a building unlike any other building in the world. We are now 45 feet beneath the surface of the earth. This is SAC's underground command post, a bomb-proof, radiation-proof, communication and trajectory center. From here, the global activities of the Strategic Air Command are about to be directed.
Repeat, this is a yellow alert. NORAD reports 80 unidentified targets. 20 are in Sector Romeo 4 on a southeasterly heading, range 320. 12 are in Sector Romeo 5.
This is Igloo. I'm tracking a large unidentified flying force on a penetration course at 30,000 feet.
Angel to Snowcap tracking. Come in, Snowcap.
Snowcap to Angels. Unidentified, still on course. Estimated time of arrival at point of penetration, 14 hours, Zulu.
This is the Air Force Command Post. Authentication is independence. Prepare to copy Joint Chiefs of Staff emergency message 3 Alpha. As I call your command, acknowledge presence.
Reports positive penetration through sectors Sierra 2, November 6, and Romeo 4. All SAC forces now in condition red. Repeat, condition red.
SAC's mixed force goes into operation.
Jackrabbit, this is Big Boy. The launch enabling switch is in the off position. Report the condition of all missiles under your command.
Roger, Big Boy. This is Jackrabbit. Loop test complete and holding on missile Alpha at T-170. Hold on missile Coco at T-521. Missile Bravo counting at T-908. Jackrabbit, out.
Roger, LCO. Proceed with the EWP red. Looks like this is the real thing, LCO. Good luck, Jackrabbit. Big Boy's out.
Yes, Colonel, this is going to be a big part of your world soon. the world of the ballistic missile. Perhaps in this brief look into your tomorrow, you found some of the answers you've been looking for. But there will be other questions and other answers as Atlas enters each new operational phase. Improvements both in missile technology and site configuration are in the mill now. Improvements, for example, like the mobile app sheet checkout units, offering great reductions in manpower as they take over from today's fixed equipment. But probably the most important changes involve the missile sites themselves. Gradually, today's soft coffin-type launch and service buildings will be replaced by hardened facilities, probably 25 psi at first, then 50, and finally, the ultimate. Widely scattered 100 psi launch emplacements with a salvo launch capability. And other men like you are going to have to face up to even more sophisticated missile systems. SAC's ICBM inventory is expanding. On the horizon are refined weapons like Titan, shown here during its final testing phase, and solid fuel missiles like Minuteman, capable of striking assigned targets from scores of underground silo emplacements, as well as from roving railway cars. But whatever the type, whatever the operational environment, the biggest challenge is to understand and accept the ICBM concept. Once you become missile conscious, become a missile man in every sense of the word, the transition from one missile system to another won't be hard. It's the first big transition that's the hardest. It's the one that calls for the most versatile kind of leadership.